I like to think of us being a bit like the moon, because the moon, it doesn't generate light of its own accord. And I like to think of God, and Jesus in particular as God, being like the sun. And when the sun shines on the moon, it reflects its light to the earth. And when we as Christians are actually looking to the Lord Jesus and looking for His direction, it's a bit like us being out reflecting the light from the sun. To be a light that shines to other people, in other words, we're reflecting the love of the Lord Jesus Christ to other people, so that they in turn can also know about Jesus and want to know about Him. That verse, John 13:35, says, "By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, by your love one for another." And many years ago, when I was quite young, till I was probably 14, 15, 16, that I had to realise it was no good just relying on what my parents thought or believed. I needed to have a belief of my own. I decided I'd start reading the Bible for myself and working out what the Bible had to say to me personally. And also not only just do that, but see whether God would actually in some way interact with me. That as I started to read more of the Bible for myself and start to pray to God, I started to find that the things that I was going to do, and I'd pray about something, then I'd notice that God would actually respond to that in different ways. One way in which He did respond to me was when I was quite young. My parents didn't have much money because of the type of work they were doing, and I wanted to get down from Brisbane to Melbourne, two cities in Australia, and I said to God, look, I don't have much money and I want to get from this place down to start work. I hadn't started work at that stage, so I didn't have money of my own. It was just some money my parents had given me, and I prayed to God about it. And then what happened was the business or the company that was going to employ me, and I said to them, oh, look, how am I going to get down there? They said, that's all right, we'll pay for it all. And I said, oh, look, I've also got some extra luggage, which happened to be a piano accordion. I said, oh, I need also to get that down, which would cost some more. I said, don't worry about it. Just come down, put it all on, and it'll all be looked after. So I thought, okay, that's interesting, and I thought maybe that's what they normally do. Later on, when I was working at this place, and someone else was in a similar situation to me and wanted to come to start, I think they came to start work, but they were looking for the company to pay for them to travel. The people in this company said, what are you talking about? We never do that. At one stage I had cancer, and it was what was called T-cell lymphoma, and the cancer was right through me. And in fact I thought that was going to be the end for me in this life. But I had some people who offered to pray for me, and then within 2 or 3 days the actual lumps associated with the cancer actually started to shrink. And I had to go back to an oncologist, a person who looked after me treating the cancer, and he was mystified in terms of what had happened. But we were about to start doing chemotherapy associated with treating the cancer, and he said, look, okay, I can see what's happening, but maybe it's just going to come back, or I don't know what's happening, but let's go ahead with having the chemo anyway. And so I went through the process of having the chemo. I lost all my hair, and at the end of the process, they expected there to be some improvement. Well, there was more than some improvement. When they did the scan, they found that there was nothing to see. And in fact, the oncologist kept on saying, "You're boring," was the actual wording he used. But what he was meaning was, most people he sees, he has to continue to treat and look after, particularly when they have serious things like I had. But he never had to do that. And so I thought, well, maybe I should tell him actually what happened. And so one day, some time later, I told him what had happened, how people had prayed for me, and then I thought, well, he's probably not going to know what to say. And sure enough, he sat at his desk, looked down at his desk for a while. I imagine he was thinking about how to respond. And then he looked up at me and he said, "Well, I'm thankful for any help I can get." And I believe God allows us sometimes to experience difficult things that strengthens our character and allows us to even put more trust in Him. And it also reminds us that it's not us, but it's actually God enabling us to do the things that we're doing. We can be sometimes a little bit arrogant and think that we're actually masters of our own destinies. And we've even gone so far as humans to talk about the fact that we think the world was made in a particular way through Big Bang theories and so forth, when in fact God has made it clear to us that in fact He designed the world and He sustains it. The light that we get from the Lord Jesus Christ is also important in knowing what we should do and what way to go. The idea of having a light to guide us and so that we can see where we're going is important. So God doesn't just leave us just to drift through life and guess what to do. He also helps us, but we need to trust God that He knows what's best and He will guide us. And because God is the one who knows the future. And if we acknowledge that, and other people, when we do that and say, I recognise that was God in my life, not just good luck or something like that, then people can see the way that a Christian can actually be putting their faith in God. And then that verse, Proverbs 3, 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't lean on your own understanding or the things you think are best.